Jey Uso Backlash explained. WWE hit by shocking tragedy. Tiffany Stratton controversy. WWE drama gets worse. Wrestling world in shock. Have you ever watched a WWE superstar become so popular that the same fans who helped build them suddenly start questioning if they have seen enough? And what happens when that same conversation happens at the exact moment the wrestling world is dealing with a heartbreaking loss and another major controversy involving one of WWE's biggest rising names? Suddenly, the entire atmosphere changes. The cheers get quieter, the debates get louder, and everyone starts asking what happens next. Right now, the WWE universe is dealing with another wave of drama, emotion, and uncertainty. The spotlight is on Jey Uso, a tragic loss that has shaken wrestling fans, and Tiffany Stratton finding herself surrounded by controversy. These stories might seem completely different, but together they show the unpredictable side of professional wrestling. One moment fans are celebrating a superstar's biggest achievement, and the next moment they are questioning everything about their future. That is just how wrestling works. Fans are passionate, emotional, and sometimes impossible to predict. We can ask for someone to get pushed for months, then the second they become a major focus, some people start saying they are tired of seeing them. It happens all the time, and honestly, it is one of the funniest and strangest parts of being a wrestling fan. Now, let's talk about Jey Uso, because his rise has been one of the most interesting stories WWE has produced in recent years. For a long time, Jey was known as one half of one of the greatest tag teams in modern WWE history. Alongside Jimmy Uso, he created unforgettable moments, delivered incredible matches, and helped establish a legacy that many fans still respect today. But everything changed when the Bloodline story began. What started as a family storyline became something much deeper. It became a story about power, loyalty, manipulation, and a man trying to discover who he really was. Fans watched Jey struggle between family expectations and his own dreams. They watched him question his place, his decisions, and eventually his entire identity. That is why people connected with him. It was not just about wrestling moves or championships. It was about the emotional journey. It felt like fans were watching someone fight for freedom. When Jey finally stepped away and became his own man, it created a moment that felt bigger than just another storyline. The crowd reaction was incredible. People were not just cheering because a wrestler walked to the ring. They were cheering because they felt invested in the journey. The rise of main event Jey Uso became one of those rare moments where the audience and performer were completely connected. The YEET chants became everywhere. Fans shouted it during shows, online, and everywhere wrestling conversations were happening. Jey became one of the most recognizable names in WWE. But here is where things become complicated. When a superstar reaches that level of popularity, expectations become almost impossible. Fans don't just want the same thing repeated forever. They want growth. They want surprises. They want moments that make them feel the same excitement they felt at the beginning. And when those moments stop happening, even the biggest stars can start facing criticism. That is where the idea of Jey Uso fatigue comes in. Some fans believe the character has reached a point where the same energy is being repeated too often. They feel like the excitement has become predictable. They still respect Jey, but they want something fresh. They want to see another side of him. They want another chapter. And in WWE, that is always the challenge. Staying relevant is not just about being popular. It is about evolving. Some of the biggest names in wrestling history went through periods where fans turned against them. They were criticized, questioned, and doubted. But many of those same wrestlers later reinvented themselves and became even bigger stars. Wrestling is built on change. Characters rise, characters fall, and characters transform. The story is never truly finished. So the real question is not whether Jey Uso is facing backlash. The real question is how WWE responds. Because one great storyline can completely change the conversation. One rivalry can remind fans why they cared. One emotional moment can bring the excitement back. Maybe Jey doesn't need more chance or more screen time. maybe he needs a new challenge. Maybe he needs a story that reminds everyone why they connected with him in the first place. Because the truth is, the reason fans loved Jey was never just the catchphrases. It was the emotion behind everything he did. It was the feeling that he was fighting for something bigger than himself. And while fans were debating Jey Uso's future, the wrestling community was hit with something much heavier. The news of a young wrestler passing away at only 23 years old brought sadness throughout the wrestling world. Moments like this remind fans that behind all the characters, entrances, championships, and storylines, there are real people. Wrestlers are performers, but they are also human beings chasing dreams. A 23-year-old wrestler is usually someone still building their career. Someone still improving, still learning, still hoping that one opportunity could change everything. They are often traveling, training, and sacrificing years of their lives because they believe in their passion. That is why losses like this feel so painful. It is not only about losing a wrestler. It is about thinking about all the things they could have achieved. The moments they could have created. The stories they could have told. The wrestling community has always shown that during difficult moments, the competition disappears and the respect comes forward. Fans who normally argue about everything suddenly come together. Because underneath all the debates, everyone understands one thing. Wrestling matters to people. It creates memories. It creates connections. And that is why moments like this affect so many fans. If you enjoy these deeper wrestling conversations, make sure you subscribe because there is always another story developing. WWE moves so quickly that sometimes keeping up feels like a full-time job. One day we are discussing a championship match, the next day there is a surprise return, and then suddenly the entire wrestling world is focused on something completely different. That brings us to Tiffany Stratton, another superstar who has become impossible to ignore. Tiffany has quickly become one of WWE's most talked about names. Whether fans support her or criticize her, she has achieved something every performer wants. She gets attention. She creates reactions. And in wrestling, reactions are everything. But being a major name also means living under a microscope. Every move gets analyzed. Every interview gets discussed. Every mistake becomes a topic online. That is the pressure of becoming a top star. The recent Tiffany Stratton incident created another wave of discussion among fans. People have been debating what happened, how it was handled, and what it could mean for her future. Some believe it was simply a moment that became bigger because of the internet. Others believe it shows a larger issue that needs attention. And that is what makes wrestling so interesting. Sometimes controversy hurts a superstar. Sometimes controversy makes people even more interested. Some of the most memorable wrestlers in history were